Hey guys, Ryan King here, and I'm the keyboard instructor for WorshipArtistry.com. In today's YouTube lesson, we're going to take a look at the song Street Called Mercy by Hillsong United. We're going to take a look at how to achieve all the different keyboard sounds that they use throughout this song. Now we're only going to take a look at the tone section of this lesson, so if you want to see the entire thing and learn how to incorporate these sounds throughout, then you need to click the link and head over to WorshipArtistry.com where you can sign up for a free account today. If you're familiar with us, then you already know that we have hundreds of guitar and drum videos, and we are continually adding both keyboard and bass lessons so that you have an entire team resource at your disposal. Our team accounts will go live very soon, so be sure to click that link and head over to Worship Artistry where you can sign up for a free account, and that way you'll stay notified. Well, for now, here's a taste of what's to come. The tone for this song is very important. For the most part, we're only playing about 4 different chords, but the sounds that we use really make this song. And so knowing which sounds to play is very important. As you listen to the demo, you'll hear just numerous different keyboard parts. Some of them are foundational, others are more effects and very ethereal, and all of them combined really help make this song. And so in order to do this, you need to be able to have a keyboard that has the capability of setting up a performance or a multi. And what that means is that you can combine different sounds into one performance. And so for instance, I'm using a piece of software called Omnisphere, and that allows me to take 8 different sounds and put them into one performance and be able to turn them on and off at different times. Now, if you don't have a keyboard that can do this, the easiest thing that you can do is select an electric piano and see if you can combine that with a pad. That'll at least get you through the song. It won't allow you to play it like the album sounds, because there are just really some different intricate sounds throughout this thing, but it'll at least get you through it. So to start off with, I've selected an electric piano, and it's actually called a gossamer keyboard. And it kind of has a bell sound to it, and it sounds like this. As you can hear, it has that electric piano sound to it, but it's got a lot of effects to it. I've added a really big reverb. As far as effects are concerned, when we talk about them, we talk about how dry or wet the sound is. And so I've really made this reverb very wet on the actual keyboard. I've also added 2 different delays to it. One of the delays is set to a 16th note, and you can hear that here. You can hear that 16th note. I've also set one to an 8th note, and that sounds like this. So you've got your 16th note. You've got your 8th note. As you see there, I struck the key a little harder, and it added a little bit of a percussive element to it. So the lighter that I play, the softer it is. The harder I play, the more percussive it gets. And you can also hear the harder that I play, it gets a little distorted. And I've run this keyboard through basically an amp, a guitar amp, and cranked up the overdrive on it so that it gives it a little bit of dirt as you start to dig into it. Now that's just one sound, and that's a pretty complicated sound. If you don't have those options, just using an electric piano, if you can, sometimes the electric pianos will have a knob called a drive, and that allows you to add some distortion to the sound, and that'll really help. So again, this is a Gossamer keyboard. The next one that I have is just a fairly typical glockenspiel, and that's just a bell sound, and that sounds like this. Fairly simple. I've added a reverb to it to give it a little bit of space, and when you combine it with the keyboard, it sounds like this. As you can see, that glockenspiel really helps add a little bit more dimension to the keyboard sound. The next one is what you would call a toy box or a celeste, and that sounds like this. It's almost kind of like the first two sounds combined together, but it has just a little bit different element to it. And when you combine all three together, it sounds like this. And that's the main keyboard sound that I'm using. Now, I've got some different pads and synths that I use, and the first pad that I use is called a Wide Prophet, and it's basically an analog pad that has a lot of verb to it. I've also increased the attack time so that it doesn't, whenever I strike the pad, it doesn't immediately sound. Just got a really nice pad to it, and again, that attack time is increased so that when I hit the key it doesn't immediately sound, it kind of fades in. The next one that I have is an airy analog pad, and I've decreased the attack time on that one so that whenever I strike the keys it pretty much immediately sounds. I've also turned down the decay time on it so that when I let go of the keys it doesn't trail on, it pretty much immediately cuts off. As opposed to the first pad, it kind of continues to fade out. Those two combined sound like this. And those are kind of the foundational pads. Now, I also use some big synth pads throughout this that I've kind of dialed back a little bit. Really, it's only one synth pad, and I've done it at two different instances so that I can have one that sounds really soft and one that sounds a little bit louder. That way I'm not having to adjust any volumes. I just change the same sound, and one's kind of soft, one's a little louder. And this one is called Name Epic Synth. I've used it on some other songs as well, and it sounds like this. Now that's the softer one. If I change to the louder one, it sounds like this. You can also hear that the louder one has a shorter attack time, so when I strike it, you really hear it come in. Versus the softer one, it takes a little bit longer. So those are the two big synth pads. Now in the middle of the song, the last sound that I use is really more for advanced users. Whenever we get to the first time through the bridge, really all it is just some synth work. And this particular pad that I'm using, it pulses. And it doesn't just pulse on the downbeat, it actually pulses on the upbeat, which means instead of hitting on one, it hits on two. So it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And in order to do that, we have to use an arpeggiator. Now, again, this is for advanced users. If you don't have this, just using a regular pad will at least get you through it. But if you do have an arpeggiator, what I've done is I've just selected a different kind of pad. It's called Epic Richness. And what I've done is I've kind of thinned the sound out. I've used a high-pass filter to kind of get rid of some of the low end of it. And then I've set up the arpeggiator so that when I strike the note, you don't hear the first beat, but you hear beat 2 and 3, and then it cuts off and then comes back in on 4. So that sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I know that may sound a little confusing without anything going on, but whenever you combine it with some of the other pads, it sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And those are pretty much the tones that I'm using for this song. Again, this is a pretty advanced song from a sound perspective. If you don't have all of these, don't worry about it. Just select an electric piano and a pad and you'll be pretty much to go. But if you do have the capability of combining some of these different sounds, I'm basically using 3 different kinds of keyboards. I'm using a Gossamer keyboard. That keyboard is run through an amp. It's got a big reverb to it. It's got 2 different delays on it, one on a 16th note and one on an 8th note. Now, here's kind of a little disclaimer. If you've never used delays before, don't worry about it. If you start using a delay and you're not perfectly in time with what's going on in the song, it'll really start to throw things off. So you got to make sure that you're used to playing to a click track, that everything is really in sync. So there's a Gossamer keyboard, there's a Glockenspiel. There's a toy box. I've got 2 pads. I've got 2 different synth pads. And then I've got a pad that has a built-in arpeggiator to it, and combined with others, it sounds like this. So if you have the capability of combining some of these different sounds into a performance, then you'll really have a great setup for executing this song. Be sure to click the link and head over to worshipartistry.com where you can sign up for a free account today. Every lesson comes with a music video where you can change different video angles, as well as step-by-step instruction for different sections of the song. We also have loop videos that you can practice along to, as well as sheet music, chord charts, guitar tabs, and a whole lot more. So what are you waiting for? Click the link and sign up for a free account today.